All right, Lexi, tell them where we're at.
All right, so we're here in Arcadia. We're on the beautiful canal. I love this area. It's so cool. We're going to go hang out at OHSO. And Greg, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about living in Scottsdale versus living in the city of Phoenix. I think it's a topic that a lot of people probably want to hear about, want to know about, and kind of really go through and dissect each one to find out which one might be right for you. I think a lot of people, Lexi, come in with the idea of one or the other without really truly looking at the other. So you might have gone through that experience as well.
A little bit. I mean, I live in Phoenix now, but I have love for Scottsdale too. So yeah, let's get into it and let's share some opinions on it. I think that's what's going to be fun.
Absolutely. So if you guys want to know all about what it's like living in Phoenix versus living in Scottsdale, then stay tuned. All right, guys, so we are back again. I'm here with Lexy Romano with Phoenix Finds. Happy to have Lexi join us once again.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. So thanks for having me again.
Of course. Appreciate your insight. So we are here at OHSO right now in Arcadia. We thought this would be a good spot to shoot because, number one, it's got a really good backdrop right here on the canal.
Yes, I love it. So cool.
And Arcadia happens to be, if you're looking at true Arcadia, the neighborhood, it kind of is shared between both Phoenix and Scottsdale. So we thought, for our conversation of Phoenix versus Scottsdale, this would be a good spot to shoot.
Kind of right in between, kind of.
Yeah, if you look at the map, we'll bring up a map and kind of show you guys how true Arcadia sits and kind of the location between Phoenix and Scottsdale. But I want to say thank you to OHSO for allowing us to come in here a little early.
Thank you.
Good news is there's nobody here yet, so we don't have any background noise or.
But the bad news is that they're cooking and it smells so good, and now I'm starving.
Yes, that and
it's not bad news, but
I was going to say the bad news is we can't order a beer.
That is the true bad news. Yes.
But yeah, that's what I do. But so we want to get into Phoenix versus Scottsdale. There's a lot of things to cover. There's a lot of just pros and cons of both. And I think a lot of people who might be moving and are looking at Scottsdale in particular, because I think a lot of people who are focusing on Scottsdale. Scottsdale's a huge destination city, so a lot of people kind of look at it as, hey, I want to come move here to Scottsdale. Yeah. They might overlook at some of the communities and neighborhoods here in Phoenix. And so we're going to kind of go through some of those just to kind of give you some ideas. It may or may not be a good fit for you. This is not a sales pitch either way.
Right.
But we both live in Phoenix, so we chose it for a certain reason. I think we both love Scottsdale.
Yeah, equally love Scottsdale as well. But I think there's a lot of cool things about Phoenix that maybe people from coming here from out of state don't know about. So I'd love to get into some of that stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And you made the move here recently. So for anybody who doesn't know, like you came in here a few years ago, so you had to make the decision on, whether, to move to Phoenix, Scottsdale, or any of the other rest of Metro Phoenix. So I think you'll add a lot of insight. I've obviously been around for a while here in Arizona. I've lived in both Phoenix and Scottsdale, so hopefully I can add some insight as well. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, Lexi, let's talk about location first. I think, if we bring up both Phoenix and Scottsdale on the map, I'll bring it up on screen here. Both are pretty large.
Yeah.
Phoenix is the largest city in the Phoenix Metro, obviously, and then Scottsdale is the fifth largest, but it looks pretty big on the map. I think both areas have similarities in that, from north to south, they're pretty diverse.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, the cool thing I think about Phoenix is Phoenix is so long. It's like long and kind of skinny. And I think what's cool about it is it really encompasses a large amount of Arizona, of the Phoenix metro area. Like you can be all the way down at the bottom and be in Phoenix, and then you drive all the way up into North Phoenix, which is where I live, and you can still be in Phoenix. Like there are places that it's like, this is almost a 40-minute drive away from each other, and you're still in the city of Phoenix. So it's cool because it just covers so much area. And
Scottsdale's kind of similar in that kind of long and skinny from north to south, and it breaks up into a lot of different areas. Phoenix is about over 500 square miles versus Scottsdale's about 200 square miles. So from a size difference, Phoenix is obviously a lot bigger. Phoenix has a much bigger population than Scottsdale does. But there are a lot of they're connected in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot of similarities between neighborhoods. So,
Sure.
Obviously, knowing that Phoenix is a little bit older and a little bit more diverse, there's things to kind of navigate through that. But I think there are certain aspects that people should look at.
I agree. Yeah. I love that Phoenix is a little bit older. I think the historic neighborhoods are probably my favorite, like the Coronado area. Like, I just think anything that has kind of a cool history, and the Arizona history is really unique and really cool. So I love that about Phoenix, but Scottsdale has some really cool history too, because it's one of the older cities as well.
Yeah. And I know nothing about the history of Phoenix or Scottsdale. That's where my knowledge base is pretty limited. You probably have a little bit more than that. I pretty much know from when I moved here.
Oh,
That's
okay.
about it.
I mean, I don't really know that much about the history, but I just know that it has a rich history, which is cool.
Yeah.
Especially being out here on the West Coast, we're relatively young. We're the 48th state, which is what we're always proud to say. We're state 48. But we still have a pretty rich history of, a couple hundred years that's pretty cool. So, and going back even further with, Native Americans and indigenous peoples. So,
there's a lot of cool. I mean, it's here, kind of checking out the canal areas and that type of thing. The canal goes through both Phoenix and Scottsdale, hearing about how that was originally started and that type of thing. I mean, if you're able to live in Phoenix or Scottsdale, live kind of close to the canal, it's always been kind of a popular place because you can take your bike out, you can jog. It's a great place just to kind of check out some views and be able to connect to both cities. So
absolutely.
There's definitely some historic parts of that as well. All right, so kind of let's go through some of the neighborhoods between Phoenix and Scottsdale. So if somebody's looking to make the move, I think they've heard about a lot of the desirable areas here in both Phoenix and Scottsdale. So let's go through a few of them and just kind of compare. You talked about some of the historic areas. Give me a few other areas in Phoenix that you've really liked.
So that historic area and kind of like the central Phoenix area, I love that area.
Yep.
I think it's cool, it's hip, it's really gotten a lot.
So what do we got? Like Coronado, Encanto, Windsor Square.
Yes. I was gonna say Willow, but then I was like, no.
Willow's in there too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's just cool. I love those areas. Like I said, they're older, but they have a lot of cool businesses that have come in and taken on those older buildings and kind of made them into new things. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool. So at the moment, I live in the North Phoenix area, which is a little bit more suburban than kind of your middle or downtown Phoenix.
But all of that's fairly new. Like that's all been built within the last 20 years or so.
Is.
Yeah.
Yes, which is nice. Because then the properties are newer, everything's a little bit more updated. The streets, like the way the streets are laid out, very easy to navigate. The freeways are great, clean, like I said, easy to navigate as well. And it's very suburban. So if you're looking for more of that suburban living, it's definitely up there, that north. I'm in like the Deer Valley area.
Yeah. Well,
great schools up there.
Deer Valley,
parks.
like Desert Ridge.
Yes.
Desert Ridge is a huge, very popular area in Phoenix. It kind of connects to Scottsdale. It kind of has a lot of similar feelings.
I was going to say, I don't even know, is that technically Phoenix or is that Scottsdale?
It's technically Phoenix.
See, and I wouldn't even know because it's so great and it's literally, again, right on like the way. You're right off the 101. We love the Desert Ridge area. We go up there all the time because we're right there, a couple minutes away. So North Phoenix has a lot to offer too.
And then we talked about Central Phoenix and all the historic areas. We're here in Arcadia right now. There's a lot to say about Arcadia. Biltmore's right here. South Phoenix, you got Ahwatukee. So a lot going on there.
Also new, beautiful, lots of great stuff going on down there. Lots of retail, shopping, restaurants. It's great.
Ahwatukee, it has its own name, so a lot of people just think it's its own city, but it is part of Phoenix. But just a really cool area right backed up to South Mountain, so a lot of positives there. And let's get into Scottsdale a little bit too. I always break down Scottsdale into kind of 5 quadrants. You got like South Scottsdale, and then Old Town, and then Central, and then North. And then way north is kind of how
north.
Yeah, there's like,
you have to wear a cowboy hat to live up there.
All of them are very different when it comes to Scottsdale. Talking about because if you're looking at South Scottsdale and Old Town, they have a lot of similar feel to what we're seeing kind of like here in Arcadia and Central Phoenix with the age of the homes. You're probably in the 60s, 70s built type homes.
Yeah.
And then as you go further north, you get a little bit newer. You get into the communities in Central Scottsdale like McCormick Ranch, Gainey Ranch.
So beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, all of those. I mean, green everywhere. That's one thing I really like about some of these older parts of both Phoenix and Scottsdale is the mature landscaping that you find everywhere, where you actually have grass large trees,
Yes.
and it just has a different feel than a lot of the rest
Almost
of
doesn't
the
feel like you're in Arizona anymore.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool.
I agree. So that's why there is a big draw to that as well. So if you're looking at places, especially in like Central Scottsdale, you're like, well, maybe I need to look at some of these Central Phoenix spots because you might not have the Phoenix address, or you might not have the Scottsdale address on anybody who sends you mail.
Still have that feel.
Yeah.
The Scottsdale feel.
And be 5 to 10 minutes from everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of the nice things too, is like no matter where you pick, if you want events here in Phoenix, you can be there in 10-15 minutes. If you want to do the events in Scottsdale, you can be into those in 10-15 minutes half the time.
Yep.
All right, since we were kind of talking about the similarities when it comes to some of the older neighborhoods of Scottsdale to like what we're seeing here in Central Phoenix, let's kind of just go through, the rest of the scenery and the landscape, because, if you look at most of Phoenix versus Scottsdale, I mean, there is a pretty big difference when it comes to what the scenic atmosphere looks like, and just kind of driving around. I mean, it's definitely much nicer when you're driving around Scottsdale.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's why people are drawn to it. I mean, it's really beautiful. It's really well taken care of. I mean, I don't know, like a good portion of Scottsdale just is the resorts. So it's beautiful. It's very, the landscape is gorgeous. It's very well manicured, which is different from a lot of parts of Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's kind of probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, there's always been a decent amount of money that's always been a part of Scottsdale. Call it good, bad, or whatever. But I mean, I think because of that, it's always been, put in a situation where they've always done a good job of keeping it up, making sure it always looks very, very good.
Yep.
And it doesn't have some of the age of some of the neighborhoods here in Phoenix. So when you're driving through, even when we're here in Arcadia and kind of living here, I mean, you're going down like the street every day and you're seeing some older stuff that just looks a little worn down.
Yeah.
So, and just not as kept up. That's part of the draw to a certain extent. So some people just love that it's just really diverse here and there.
Yeah.
Some people would rather be like, hey, I just want to be in an area that's always kept up really nice. So again, that's going to be different for everybody. And there's a little bit of a price to pay for that too.
Exactly, yeah. And if that's one of your priorities, that's one of the things that is at the top of your list. Like, hey, I want to see everything looking beautiful, and I have the money to be there, and that's a priority, then like that's great. Then that's one of the best things about Scottsdale is how beautiful it is,
Yeah, and a lot of that comes, I mean, because I would say there's a significant amount of neighborhoods now in Scottsdale that have HOAs. So you're kind of paying for that a little bit as well, versus a lot of, Central Phoenix, these older neighborhoods, there's no HOAs involved.
Oh, yeah, no.
So from a positive, I mean, a lot of people just hate HOAs in general and dealing with them. And so if you don't want to pay the cost and you don't want to have to deal with that, but you might have a neighbor who, paints their house a weird color or just leaves some junk out in their yard every now and then. I mean, you have to deal with that here and there, but I have that in my neighborhood. I don't care. I still love it. I don't want to pay an HOA. All right, Lexi, I think one of the biggest things that people need to know when it comes to Phoenix versus Scottsdale is cost of living. And I think, primarily, there's not too many big differences, but housing obviously is a big difference. So,
yes,
and that's going to be the
sure.
biggest. That's going to be the biggest factor. That's going to be the biggest thing that people have to kind of take into consideration when you're looking at Scottsdale versus looking at Phoenix.
For sure.
So kind of talk about, because I know you went through this before, talk about your situation when you were looking to move here and looking at Scottsdale versus Phoenix.
So, well, when we first moved here, that was a couple years ago, but we recently bought a home.
Yeah.
And it was in this market, which has been crazy. But
Congrats on getting something.
Thanks. I know. Honestly, it was a huge ordeal. It was a whole situation. But so we're very thankful to have the condo that we're in now in North Phoenix. But we were pretty much immediately priced out of Scottsdale because it is pretty expensive over there. Now, if you go grocery shopping in Scottsdale versus Phoenix, there's not really going to be any difference. Like you were saying, the main difference is the housing prices. But we're in a neighborhood now that's in the North Phoenix area, like we were saying, Deer Valley area, and we're still close to plenty of retail, plenty of shopping, plenty of things to do. We can come down to Midtown Phoenix and get here in about 20 minutes, 18, 19 minutes, easy. We're right off of 2 main highways, which is great.
Yeah.
And it's still central enough, but it was in our price range.
Do you think there's any other costs that you have by moving to Phoenix that maybe you didn't consider?
Well, it's something that you were just saying is the HOA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something that.
The townhomes, you're going to have them, so
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the townhome and how
Yep.
much you're paying and what your amenities
Yeah.
are. So hopefully, if you're paying them, you've got amenities that you like to use.
Absolutely. And I think something else for Phoenix that, or just Arizona in general, that maybe people moving in from out of state don't think about is having to buy more quality furniture outdoors.
Yeah.
You have to take better care of your car. Like, you have to have somewhere to put your car out of the sun.
Yeah.
Especially, for those of us who have electronic cars, you don't want your
Yeah.
battery to get fried. There's just a lot of things with the temperature, with the weather out here, that it is different from, like, say, being back east.
Right.
Like, it's just a little bit different because of the super, super harsh summers.
But I think so. Kind of touching on that, because we talked about, like, if you're grocery shopping or if you're shopping at a store, I think the sales tax is like slightly higher actually in Phoenix than it is in Scottsdale.
Is
just
it
by a little
really?
bit.
No
I think-
way. I'm surprised
yeah,
by that. I thought it
yeah.
would be the other way around.
I think it's 8.6 sales tax in Phoenix and 8.05 in Scottsdale is what I
Wow.
believe it is. So again, slight difference.
Right.
Like, I don't know how big a difference. Maybe if you're going to Costco or Best Buy and you're having to buy like something big, then maybe it's like, oh, I'll just go to Scottsdale this time.
Right.
But, I don't know if it's worth the extra drive. But otherwise, because like property taxes, obviously, if you have a more expensive property, or if you're surrounded by more expensive properties, you're going to have a higher property tax.
Sure.
But that actually reminds me, though, because like with me here being in Central Phoenix, and we're surrounded by older homes and a bunch of homes that have been knocked down and built new.
Oh.
And so the taxes on those, like, I can still have a very low tax rate on my house.
Oh.
And somebody who's knocked down a house and built a house might have a pretty low tax rate in comparison to somebody who's in a neighborhood of all expensive homes. Their tax rate's probably going to jump. So that is
Interesting.
probably a factor that I didn't think about as much until now. But it's definitely, this year with all the prices going up, it's definitely something to consider. By the way, just so everybody knows, kind of for reference, if you're looking for a single family home in Scottsdale, you're going to be starting in the 5s, so be prepared for that, versus a single family home in Phoenix you can still find in certain neighborhoods for starting in the 2s. So just something to know. All right, if you guys are enjoying the conversation so far, please consider hitting that like button for us. It helps to know if we're putting out the right content.
Yes.
It also helps to spread it to more people who might be in your same situation. And definitely comment below. Let us
Yeah.
know if you agree or disagree on what we're saying. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, if you disagree, that's okay too.
It's not okay. All right, the next thing we want to get into, which I think is a pretty big topic, especially for families coming in here, and that is schools. And I know, Lexy, you've got 5 kids going through school right now, so you can probably talk a lot about this. Is that accurate?
Yes, they're all in high school. I look very, very young for my age. No, I don't have any kids yet. Maybe someday. But yeah, I don't know too much about this topic, so I'll punt it
Fair
over
enough.
to you.
I only have a 2.5-year-old, so I haven't gone through the school system
Right.
yet. I didn't go to school here. I came out here my junior year in high school, so I spent like a year and a half here.
Okay.
But I hear that most of the time Arizona gets a bad rap for schools in general.
Right.
But if you look at all the comparisons, Scottsdale tends to get a lot better reviews online.
Okay.
So when you're looking at Phoenix versus Scottsdale when it comes to schools, if you've got a family, if you've got kids, and that's something that's super important to you, which it is for a lot of families, then you're probably going to want to know what a good neighborhood is for schools. Now, we do have a lot of neighborhoods here in Phoenix, and actually where we're at right now is actually within Scottsdale School District as well. So there are certain areas of Phoenix that will give you the higher rated schools, and I think they're in pockets all throughout the Phoenix area, but there are some areas that maybe don't have the best rated schools, so
Yeah.
got to look out for that as well.
Well, and Greg, I have something that maybe you have an answer to and maybe you don't, but is it true that Arizona is a choose state when it comes to schools, that you can live in a certain city and send your kids to a public school in a different neighborhood if that's what you choose to do?
Some areas have open enrollment, which
Okay.
will allow for that to happen. So if you are living in an area but you want to go to another school, if you contact that school, they have an open enrollment option. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes you have to get on a list, and sometimes it's first come, first serve, that type of thing. So
Okay.
it's not 100% like you can make it happen all the time.
Gotcha.
But it is available in certain situations. There are a lot of people that choose to go some of the charter schools here,
Yeah.
Also some of the private schools as well. So there are other options if you don't necessarily like the public schools. But I think we are seeing an increase, hopefully, in the quality of the public schools.
I think so, for sure.
You know, from the parents that I talk to, it seems like there's a little bit, I don't know, you get online, everybody's going to complain. That's what
Right.
people do online. So
Yeah.
if you look up comments about schools online here in Arizona, I'm sure everybody's going to say it sucks really bad, but I know a lot of these kids that have graduated, they seem like they're pretty smart and sharp to me. So maybe that's just comparing to me, but
Well, there you go. I mean,
yeah, so who knows? But do your research. We'll try to guide you the best we can, but I guess at the end of the day, we're both trying to learn it ourselves. Well, you might not need to learn it. Who knows? The next thing we should talk about real quick, and probably doesn't have to be too long, is things to do, events, kind of dining, nightlife, because,
Yeah.
you know, I think Scottsdale is obviously known for a lot of that stuff.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, Old Town itself has so much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much going on.
So obviously, if you're in Scottsdale, you're going to have access to all that all the time. My feeling on it, which is why we can keep this quick, is you're pretty close in Phoenix. So anything that happens in Scottsdale, and if you're living in Phoenix, you can get there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've done a lot of stuff, and you can check out our other video that we did on all the things to do between like Phoenix Metro in general, and check that out. We'll leave a link for it above here. There's a lot of fun stuff to do in Phoenix and Scottsdale. I don't know if I would rule. I mean, again, like just briefly talking about here in Arcadia and talking about like the nightlife you find, the restaurants. There are some pretty top-notch, high-quality restaurants here in Phoenix as well
yeah.
that maybe
Absolutely.
people will sleep on if they're not from here.
Exactly. Yeah, I think people have this idea of Scottsdale as being the place to go, the place for the clubs, the nightlife, the restaurants, the bars. But Phoenix has so much going on and so much up and coming stuff.
Yep.
And there are places in Phoenix that people don't even know, oh, that's in Phoenix? Yeah, there's so much going on here, and there's new
Yep.
stuff opening all the time. I'm a huge, huge fan of the up and coming scene in Phoenix.
All right, another really important topic that a lot of people are probably going to want to know about, and when it's comparing the two, is when it comes to like safety, crime, police in general, that type of thing. Let's discuss it a little bit. We'll kind of talk about our own kind of personal, what we know so far, and kind of situation. I think again, it's kind of like, you know, you look online and you look at crime statistics. I think you'll think nowhere is safe.
I know.
all.
I know. It's like when you look up something on like, if you have something wrong and you like look it up online, it's like all it says is like cancer. So it's
Yeah.
like the worst stuff is online.
Between the social media and then like all these neighborhood websites.
Oh, right.
I mean,
Nextdoor.
Nextdoor is definitely like somebody's going to post something every day about somebody broke into the something.
Yeah.
Personally, I haven't had too many negative experiences with crime in my years here in Arizona. I think I had one time living here in Arcadia, and this was probably 10 years ago, where my car got broken into
Oh, that sucks.
near, like, just off of Indian School, and it was to take a Garmin. You remember those GPS things that we used to have like 10 years ago?
Oh my gosh.
It was, I don't know, it was probably worth like 2 cigarettes street value or something, but somebody broke in and took my Garmin out of my
man.
car. So that was stupid, but outside of that, I haven't had, like, never had any break-ins, never had any issues. I read about people, like, even like we're just before Halloween right now, and people are talking about people stealing their Halloween decorations and that garbage.
Good grief.
So you hear about that stuff all the time, but comparing Phoenix versus Scottsdale, you know, you're going to have theft in both. You're going to have certain situations. I'd say probably violent crimes are probably more common in Phoenix than they are in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
You know, Phoenix is a much larger area.
Sure.
Certain areas are much older, so obviously Phoenix is going to have more spots that you have to probably look out for.
Yeah. Definitely.
Have you had any things that you've dealt with in your area?
You know, to be totally honest, our area in the North Phoenix area, we do have a pretty large homeless population up there, and we have recently, someone stole the catalytic converter off my husband's car.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, so it is something that happens everywhere, but comparing Scottsdale to Phoenix, I don't know, maybe it's a little worse in Phoenix.
Yeah.
At least that's, where I live, and I can tell you that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, I'm sure some people might agree or disagree. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't look up crime statistics. I have people that ask me about that stuff all the time. I don't look it up because it's like, it's not what I see on a day-to-day basis. So
Right.
I don't really like talking about it because it's not really what I see.
Yeah.
So, we'll help guide you. I think, obviously there's stuff you can look up if it's super important to you. No place is ever going to be perfect.
Right.
I definitely think it's probably fair to say that Phoenix is going to have more issues than Scottsdale when it comes to that type of thing. In kind of expanding upon that, I think, especially this year, people are talking about the homeless situation.
Yeah.
You have a lot of the panhandlers. I think Phoenix, it's much worse of a problem in Phoenix with the panhandlers out there right now. You're seeing people on the corners all the time with signs asking for money. Scottsdale does a pretty good job of keeping that clean.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do.
I was
per
just gonna
se.
say, how do they do that versus how Phoenix? What's the difference?
They
I
probably
don't know.
put them on a bus and send them to Phoenix.
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's why
Who
they're
knows
all here.
Who knows? I haven't heard exactly how that works or what they do, but Scottsdale has a way of, and they actually even put signs out of like, "Hey, don't give any money to panhandlers."
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps or not, but we don't see it as much in Scottsdale as we do Phoenix. It's an issue that is happening all over the place right now, so I don't think it's a Phoenix issue per se.
No, it's every state. I'd say actually in the scope of the United States, we're probably one of the milder
Yeah.
states that's dealing with this issue right now. Honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I know it's nowhere near the problem as it is in California right now. I don't know how much it's affecting other states right now. It's just it's a shitty thing to talk about.
It is. It sucks.
But
yeah.
but people want to know about it, and people kind of know, want to know like how it's going to affect them if they're moving here. So want to make sure that we talk about it, and obviously ask us if you have any specific questions about it. We've talked about so many issues so far, or so many topics. Hopefully you guys have gotten a lot out of this. Let's go ahead and talk about some miscellaneous little things. We'll kind of wrap up with some of these topics that I think are still really important. I think one of the things that comes to mind as far as differences to me is like short-term rentals.
Yeah.
I think Scottsdale is huge when it comes to short-term rentals. There's a big market for it. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about from a buyer's perspective, how is that going to affect you? And typically that means that if you move into a house, you might have short-term renters nearby.
So when you say short term, you mean like Airbnbs?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So Airbnb, VRBO, like there's a huge market, especially in Scottsdale, because people come and travel out here all the time. They don't want to be staying in some of the hotels. They want to stay in a house. So I don't see it as much in Phoenix. I know there are plenty of Airbnb properties in Phoenix, but from a per capita and per neighborhood type of thing, I think Scottsdale definitely has a lot more. That's something to keep in mind. Now, if you're looking to purchase one, I guess that's helpful because
Right.
it seems like they keep these things occupied. I haven't heard anything so far of any rules coming up to curb them. I know they're trying to track them a little bit more, but something to keep in mind. Traffic.
I feel like traffic has definitely gotten worse. I mean, when I first moved here 4 years ago, there was some traffic, right at rush hour.
Yeah.
But I feel like it has definitely gotten worse. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, we had last year was kind of an anomaly where we had the COVID situation come in.
Right.
It was slow for a while. Now it picked back up this year, so we're starting to see traffic pick up. We still have people moving here quite a bit. Obviously, everybody knows that. So where our population continues to grow. There's certain areas that are much worse, when it comes to traffic than others, and it depends on how far you have to drive.
Yeah.
So, but I think you were saying you coming from California, and I've definitely noticed, when you go and visit, you know that if you're coming from an area like California, maybe like Texas, the traffic is much better here than in those places.
Yes.
All right, good news, Lexi. The music is elevating. That means they're about to open,
Yay!
which means we can stop recording, but we could also potentially order a beer.
Yes.
So we might do that, but again, if you guys like the video, definitely comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us a like. Give us a call too. I mean, let us know if you're thinking about making the move and you want to know more about whether Phoenix or Scottsdale might be right for you. We're here to help you on that. Definitely reach out to us. We're here to guide you when it comes to that. Definitely follow Lexy at Phoenix Finds. You want to check her out. We'll leave her information below. She's doing a lot of great content as well with a lot of the businesses here. So make sure to follow Lexy as well. Make sure to check out the videos on screen if you need to know more information. And until the next video, we'll catch you guys later.